nonprofit guest.
Thank you, Zach. Our speaker today is Kate Domanski. Kate is the Executive Director of Roofs from the Heart organization. She started Roofs from the Heart 2 years ago, coming with mostly for-profit career experience. Her background is in franchise sales and business development. She quickly learned that for-profit development translates easily to nonprofit development, and feels she is feeding her passion for service through being in the nonprofit space. Kate's favorite part of overseeing this organization is meeting the recipients, hearing their stories, and helping them get the services they need to have a better quality of life. One of her goals is to strengthen the collaboration with other home emergency repair organizations to better fulfill the need in substandard housing. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Kate.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much. And Zach, thank you so much. Thank you for having me back. I attended a few of these meetings, but they were like Thursday evenings. That was a really rough time for me. So I am pretty stoked that they are back to being during the workday and I get to present, which is pretty fantastic. So I think I could talk about this mission all day long, but I'm going to try to keep it around 10 minutes for the sake of everybody's boredom here. But so thank you for kind of giving the background on me. I joined this organization because I do have a passion to serve, and it was a great opportunity for me to get into nonprofit work. And what our mission is, it is very simple and straightforward, and we really try to stay in our lane. This was founded by a for-profit roofing company about 8 years ago. They just saw a need in the community for people who were in desperate situations, life circumstances, health, whatever it could be. They were in desperate need of a roof and they had no means of being able to provide one for themselves. So that's what our mission is, to put on new roofs to those who cannot maintain the basic provision of safe and secure shelter for their families. We aim to keep the family in their home and in their community. So we envision us not only working with other organizations who do home emergency repair, but being the go-to organization for when the roof needs to be replaced first. And you know, as we go through the presentation, you guys will see that there are so many home repair needs that connect with the roof. So we really feel like a failing roofing system is just as important as structural damage to the house, because water can be devastating. So our goal is to continue to increase the amount of full roof replacement repairs that we can make annually in order to have positive impacts on disadvantaged and underserved families. I have a short, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to hear it. Let's see.
I'm Erin.
Can you guys hear it?
Wilmington, and I have two boys that are 4 and 6 years old. Our roof is original from what I understand, and this house was built in, I think, the late 50s, early 60s, so it's old. Tim was amazing. He was like the most outgoing person you would ever meet. He had said last summer, he's like, next summer, we're doing the roof, we're gonna get it done. But then in September, he was diagnosed with stage 4 Ewing sarcoma. So that kind of changed everything. My friend Michelle Vestito, who I worked with, nominated us. I had no idea, and you had to send in a picture, but she didn't have one, and we still luckily were chosen as one of the 3 finalists. He was so stoked because he was super competitive and liked to win everything. He just felt so happy and excited that we were going to have a roof over my house and the boys. Like that wasn't something he had to worry about before he passed. So that was huge to him. I have my moments when things are difficult, for sure, but I try to be positive. That's my driving force, is the boys. Always has been. Hey, can I have a lullaby? You can. Go for it. The blessings that we have gotten are just, it's just amazing. They're truly the nicest people you will ever meet. If it wasn't for them and God, of course, I don't know how I would have been able to do half the stuff that I've been able to do. everyone's been great and amazing, and I'm just so grateful for that, truly.
So that was one of our first stories. And this was when, G Fidel Roofing and Siding was absorbing a lot of the costs, and it had just the concept had just started. It was friends and family campaign. They accepted applications, fast forward, and that was about 8 years ago. So you fast forward to where we are now, we have separated ourselves. We've become our own entity as a 501c3. And not that her story is not amazing, but we've really dived into the substandard housing where, our recipients have to be disadvantaged, underserved, and they have to meet certain criteria in order to be eligible for the program. Because, what has really come about in working with other community organizations is the housing conditions that so many people are living in are awful. And the only reason why they're still in these homes is because they're on the verge of homelessness. So these are the homes in these conditions that we're really focused on doing. And we like to focus on these neighborhoods because if you see this, low income homeowners typically face higher repair costs than higher income homeowners and have less means to pay for these repairs. And it's not just home repairs. I mean, think of how expensive a roof is. There's a lot of mid to high income homeowners that can't afford a new roof. So this creates conditions where, when needed repairs and maintenance are not made, physical and structural problems in the home accumulate, and they consider these homes substandard. And that's really, what our focus is. In a study of 1,000 homeowners, nearly 60% of respondents said that they're putting off home repairs because they can't afford them. And in the same study, people who did have savings, it was less than $1,000. And again, $1,000 is not going to be able to even maybe repair your roof, let alone replace it. So again, as we started to dive into the issues and impacts that we could potentially have as an organization, we receive obviously applications for our website. We receive referrals from different home emergency repair organizations, healthcare organizations, and the conditions of the home started to get worse and worse the more our program expanded. So it's not just, your roof is old, we're starting to see some leaks, the mold, the mildew, there's ceilings that have collapsed. We hear time after time about how children are sleeping in bedrooms where their parents come in every single time it rains and they have to change out the buckets and they're living with moldy insulation coming out. And it's just something that just trickles down because 9 times out of 10, if your roof or if your conditions of your home are like this, there's a million other needs within the home that are really impairing not only your financial burdens, but your health and your safety and your security within the home. So this is really like what our goals are, the things that we focus on, creating safety and security. We're really trying to hone in and focus on reducing health risks because those are the connections that start to really inspire people and to create awareness about how important a healthy home is to the health of the resident. Of course, reducing financial burden is a huge goal of ours, increasing energy efficiency and enhancing community and neighborhoods. These are just kind of more drilled down of what our goals are because, people think, oh, you're replacing the roof, but the outcomes and the impacts of the people's lives that we're replacing the roofs for, there's so much more. It's preventing mold and mildew, indoor air quality, reducing injury risks, mental health enhancement, addressing structural issues of the home. We're enhancing comfort, reducing exposure to the elements. And really, it comes down to that dignity and pride of ownership, reducing mental stress and increasing social and emotional well-being. We have some immediate goals. We're pretty new. We're just about to wrap up our first fiscal year at the end of June. But one of our goals is to grow awareness about, again, how important the role of a roof has to play and bring those outcomes to light of just it's changing people's lives with just by replacing their roof, at least, with the community that we like to serve. Bringing cost-efficient roofing solutions to more than to single families, collaborating with other organizations, which we do very heavily in Delaware. And it's almost like we can't function without other organizations because again, there's so many issues within the home, not just the roof. And we're starting to expand into southeastern Pennsylvania. So I'd love to start to form some of those relationships with organizations in like Montgomery County and Chester County. We're going to be implementing the roof replacement program again in more states. So we're trying to leak into PA and eventually we'd love to go to Maryland and Delaware. We're trying to stay close to our service provider, which is the company that founded Roofs from the Heart. And they have offices, 2 in Delaware, and then they have 1 in Montgomery and Chester County. We would like to, and we're in the midst of trying to raise funds to get a health study. So we've spoken to a lot of health organizations. They're like, yeah, we get it. Housing's important to health, but we're trying to get more measurable data connected to health risks with substandard housing. So they will maybe listen to us a little bit more and we can draw a clear picture of just how related health is. Eventually, we'd love to develop a workforce pipeline, incorporating more than just one contractor so we can get bids from very different companies. We can get organizations and other contractors that are interested in making an impact in the community. We'd love to increase our scope at some point to do more than just roofing and siding, to be able to help with more home repairs. We'd love to develop a self-help repair program down the road for applicants and for the recipients. And then way down the road, we love to start researching like low interest financing options to add to our program instead of just having the no cost roof replacement. Overall, replacing a failing roofing system for disadvantaged homeowners not only addresses their immediate housing needs, but has a broader positive impact on their quality of life, financial stability, health, and pride in which the communities in which they live. And I cited 2 studies here. These are housing studies that were done with University of Delaware and the Delaware State Housing Authority that really bring to life just exactly the numbers around substandard housing in the state of Delaware. But again, I'm looking to try to pull studies from the state of Pennsylvania as well to really make those dots connect. As far as our goals for our organization, like I said, we're pretty new. We need to go full force as far as our fundraising. So hitting up, corporate, foundational, and individual donors and different grants, county, state, we're in the midst of applying to all of those to increase our funding. I'm on my own right now, so I would love to hire staff to try to hit all of these goals at some point. And again, that's going to be a part of a grant that I write to be able to raise funds for staff to help create, implement strategic marketing. We really need a stronger marketing plan in order to create that awareness that we spoke about. And we want to, again, develop a procedure to vet and accept new contractors. So we'd love to increase our impact by 15 to 20% year over year so we can do more and more homes. When I first started with the organization, we did 4. We're on pace to do 8 this year. And then next year, we'd love to do 10, 12. I mean, ideally, I would love to do hundreds of roofs a year, but like most nonprofits, it really comes down to funding. I just wanted to share this community partners, just some pictures with you guys. So GAF is a roofing distributor of supplies. They donated all the shingles to this home in Newark, Delaware. So we have a lot of partnerships like that. We're starting to develop even more partnerships with more roofing suppliers, which is pretty great. Because roofing is very expensive. This story, actually, I did a press release for this story, this home. It was a retired military teacher, and I sent out a press release, which I do all the time. But for whatever reason, 6 ABC News was like, we want to cover this story. So we actually had the news team come out and they interviewed the homeowner and they interviewed me, and it was like a really awesome, very exciting time. Just by reaching out to media contacts. I didn't touch on this at all, but we made a pretty big commitment to a community in Wilmington called the Southbridge community. They just focus on 30 homes that are in desperate need of so many different home repairs. So we've committed $100,000. We're about halfway there, and we've already started doing a lot of the roofs in this neighborhood. And again, we'd love to form and start talking to different community development groups within Montgomery County and Chester County to start focusing, you know, still do our roof replacement program for individual families, but this is a great way to get into the communities and impact even more. These are some of our partners in Delaware. Up here, we already work with Good Neighbors, so they work in PA and Delaware as well. We have a great partnership with United Way. Their Stand By Me program is free financial coaching. So every time we meet with a recipient, we're telling them about this free financial coaching that could be made available to them to maybe help them come up with a budget or a plan to save for house repairs. These are some sponsorship opportunities. You know, everybody always wants to know, well, how much is the average roof? And it's just such a wide range, anywhere from $6,000 to $30,000, depending on the size, you know, the materials that it takes. And then people don't realize too, there's so much damage, especially in the recipients and the applicants that we have, when you take off that initial layer. You know, all new plywood, all new substrate, all new framing, everything could be rotted out, all new attic insulation. And that really adds to the cost of the roof too. And that's something that you can't necessarily approximate upfront. And then this is my contact info. So we have a website and we're constantly trying to update our website to keep up. And we have a YouTube channel as well that I did not put on there. But if you want to see more stories like the one that I shared, you guys can jump on our YouTube channel and check that out. They're all relatively older before we really became this organization. So our next recipient, we're hoping to do a piece on her. She's in Delaware, and to update that YouTube channel. But that's how you contact me. And then you guys just let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome.
That was fantastic.
Thanks.
First off, super thank you for presenting, Kate. I think what we'd love to do is open the floor for anyone that has any questions or comments for Kate. Now is your time.
Sure.
Kate, how do you go about since you're a one-person team, the grants? Do you personally write the grants or apply for the grants yourself?
I do. And that's really time consuming.
Yes.
And I mean, that would be the first, if I were to hire like a consultant, it would be for grant writing because, you know, everyone's like, well,
Yes.
when's your next event? And when are you going to do this? And I'm like, well, I could fill out grants that are going to get us $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, or I could plan an event that takes
Right.
so much time and it's going to
Sure.
raise like $3,000 to $5,000. I'm like, so that's where I really focus. And because
Mhm.
there's so many grants and organizations and like banks that their focus is housing. So
Mhm.
that really helps. We have a lot of banks on board, which is great because housing is a focus for them. But right now I'm doing all the grant writing and it's kind of brutal.
Well, the
It's
reason
like
the
college essay
reason
after college essay after college essay. And I'm like, oh,
well, the reason I ask, and anybody else in the session here, is I put my email address and the website of the foundation up there. Well, I happen to know a very good grant writer. She owns her own her own business, and so Rachel Young is her name, and she lives in the Philadelphia area, but she will work throughout the country. And so, if anybody's interested in learning more, my email address is in the chat.
thank you.
Oh,
I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Awesome. Let's go Samantha, then Zach.
So my question was, I saw, you showed a couple different roofs that I'm assuming you just replaced what they had. But if somebody wanted to be, let's say, more energy efficient and maybe get a white roof, or if they had a flat roof and now they want, a pointed roof, is that something that you guys do, or is it like you get what you got?
So I would say for the most part, because budget is so key and funding is so low, that you kind of get what you get. We tore off a flat roof that was black and we put on a white roof. And that's something that we're actually going to be a lot more cognizant of going forward because one of our focus, is increasing energy efficiency. But we have had to replace a flat roof and they wanted it white. and we just couldn't fit it into the budget. So this particular roof had 7 layers that we had to tear off.
Mm.
You know, typically you see like 2 or 3. 7 layers, and it was crazy, and then all of her substrate was rotted. So, you know, that's several $1,000s in plywood that needed to be replaced.
Wow.
So, you know, and that once the roof is torn off, we can't be like, oh no, that's not in our budget. Like we have to proceed, and we have to just kind of absorb those costs. So we kind of have to pick and choose. And you know, when it comes to flat roofs, there's EPDM, which is a nicer material, and then there's modified bitumen, both great, but there's a huge price difference, like $3,000 to $5,000 price difference. So most of the time we're going to go with that route, because that money can then be put aside for the next home.
Got you. Zach, you got your hand up?
Yes. Is there any other ways that people could help? Like, do you do like volunteering or anything like that?
We
without,
need to
like,
come
donating?
up with like a because so many people ask, but unfortunately with you need to be a certified roofer, you know, to get up
Mm.
on the roof. There's so much liability, which is why we really like to work with, you know, Habitat for Humanity and Good Neighbors. A lot of times they have their volunteers on the roof, and that's just such a big no-no. But maybe it's because we're so close with like the for-profit side, we know how much liability it is. And we also come with warranties and guarantees with the workmanship by working with a contractor. But we do want to develop a volunteer program, because like I said, so many of these homes are just so neglected that even if people came out and helped with yard work or helped, you know, a lot of times we have to clear out the attic, and people are helping move things that are in the attic if they need like an exhaust fan or something like that. And then what I'm finding is, because I am on my own, and we do have events, I need help with our events. You know, I'd love to do certain types of events, but I can't, because there's no way that I can handle doing all the different things that it would take within an event. So we're actually going to be adding a volunteer link to our website soon, hoping to have some of those opportunities.
Right.
And also just want to say great presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Zach. 100% awesome presentation. One thing that popped in my mind as you were talking about volunteers, I know some organizations that have volunteers that help with fundraising. So there's some opportunity, I think, definitely on the event side
Yeah.
and the fundraising side. I'm going to get to Victoria's question in just a second. I was kind of curious, maybe not curious, and maybe it's more of a suggestion, but when it comes to like potential sponsors and partners, have you had any conversations with those who install like solar panels on roofs? Because I feel like from their standpoint, even from we're tied to an organization doing something great like this in a PR way, it's a value to them. And
Yeah.
there's some other benefits of them being able to provide, you know, discounted solar panels to some of the same people. So I'm just curious if you had relationships or in that space.
So our G Fidel has relationships with solar providers.
Okay.
But we haven't gone down that road yet.
Gotcha.
We would love to get other contractors involved, you know, having it a part of our program, because there are a lot of organizations like roofing companies that would love to be able to be a part of this, right? Because they have a passion to give back to the community. And I'm sure what they do every day, they see people, they meet with people that are in these awful situations that can't possibly afford a roof. So we do want to open that up. And I think it'll also kind of create a little bit of competition, so we can get, you know, we have a discount that we receive from G Fidel. But as maybe, you know, if you guys have ever gotten your roof replaced, there's always a guy that's the cheapest. There's always a guy that's the most expensive. G Fidel always kind of lies like right in the middle. It would be great to kind of create a little bit of that competition to be able to get the best price to offer to our customers. Keeping in mind the workmanship and the reputation that we need to kind of keep. We don't want to slap on a crappy roof, which happens all the time. And
Yeah.
most recipients that we see, they're like, oh, well, we had this guy come out and he did this and it was wrong and bad, and it made the roof worse. So we need to make sure that we have some good experienced contractors too.
Gotcha. I saw Victoria's hand went down, Samantha's hand went up. So Samantha.
Oh, Victoria, did you still have a question? I don't want to jump the line. Okay. I was like, I don't, because I had to click the button twice. I was like, did I put her hand down? Um, so I heard you say that, you know, you guys are like in Delaware and trying to expand, and one of the companies that you partner with is already in Pennsylvania. So are you able to help folks in Pennsylvania, or is that
Yes, so
at,
I'm doing like a small siding job for somebody in Ambler, which is actually right down the street from me. And then I did receive an application. So I'm active in a chamber in Chester County, and we've received a small amount of some funding from Chester County, which is why, and we have an office in Chester County. So that's why I'm kind of choosing to focus there. And I do have an applicant that I'm actually meeting tomorrow who lives there. Sometimes, as I've discovered, you kind of have to go where the funders want you to go. You know, you get funding, but they want to fund projects in certain areas, or they want to do this or do that. So where our program started like big, it's kind of starting to narrow down, which is why I'm kind of specific to those two counties, but we would definitely be open to others. But I have money specifically to spend in Chester County, which is why I was looking for a recipient there. Which is annoying. We don't want to have to function that way, but there really is need everywhere. So if we have project money somewhere and we can figure that out, that's where we go.
Awesome. Chris.
Yeah, well, first off, Kate, excellent job. Great presentation.
Thank
And it's
you.
great to see how far you've came in the 14 months or so since we first
Yes.
connected. So, you know, excellent work. And, you know, I see you're heading, you know, down a really clear path and have a lot of goals and initiatives. So, this is great. I have a couple, people to connect you with, you know, on a couple different fronts. So, I'll be in touch with you about some of that. So thank you
Great,
so much.
thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And then Victoria's hand did pop back up. So we'll end with Victoria.
I want to apologize for my voice first. I lost my voice yesterday. But I was just wondering if you've reached out to any trade schools that have roofing programs, because they often have students that need to complete internship hours as volunteers.
No, I've not. That's a great idea.
Great thought.
Not even on my radar.
Awesome.
Yeah, they
Awesome.
often
Yeah,
have
we'll do that.
interns that need hours they have to complete to graduate. That may be a good opportunity for volunteers.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they, you know, I guess are either OSHA trained or, you know, are safe and qualified to be on a roof. So yeah, that's a great idea. I think I saw another hand pop up. I lost my screen, so I don't remember who.
Yeah,
it was.
it's okay, Zach. It was me. Kate, I just had some thoughts. So what we do is we do cost optimization. So one of the areas that we do cost optimization is working with contractors. So I had some thoughts on trying to optimize costs through managing your bid process with contractors, right? If that's something of value, happy to connect and kind of talk through that with you. But there's probably some ways to make sure you're getting lower pricing through approved vendors and manage that process a little differently.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
And that would be something that's not immediate. But hopefully we will be there. Like I'm thinking like winter or spring of next year.
Okay.
Because I'm really hoping to be able to, you know, hire somebody in the fall, you know, depending on funding that comes in. And then we will look at starting to expand. But just with the bandwidth that we have right now, I could really only handle working with one contractor, and I know them, which makes it easy. And sometimes it's still a pain in the butt, like trying to get answers, trying to get assessments, and trying to do the coordination of the installs. So when we're there, I would love to reach out to you to talk about that.
I'll shoot you my contact. That sounds great.
Great.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions before we move on? Awesome.
Thank you
Well,
guys so much. I appreciate the time.